Since we can't do the sunscreen lab in person, this video will show you what we would do during the lab. So for the materials, we would need a piece of clear transparency paper. We'll use that to place our sunscreens on to test them. We would need a penny as well as a marker. You're going to use the penny to trace a circle, and you'll have 5 circles all together that we will then label. So first we are going to put a C below the first circle. That's our control, where we'll put no sunscreen. Then we have 4 for SPF 4, 15 for SPF 15, and then 30 and 100. Right here, we're going to not put any sunscreen because that is our control. We're going to use sunscreen with an SPF of 4. We would use a Q-tip with a small amount of that SPF 4 sunscreen, and we would fill in that circle with the SPF 4 sunscreen. Next, we're going to continue using the sunscreen that has an SPF of 15. We would use a new Q-tip, put a little bit of sunscreen on the Q-tip, and then fill that circle in the same way. Next, we have SPF 30. So we would use a third clean Q-tip, put a little bit of SPF 30 sunscreen on it, and then fill in that circle. Finally, we're going to use our last sunscreen, which on the bottle says 90 plus, but we're going to call that 100, SPF 100. Same thing, another new Q-tip, get some of that sunscreen and fill that circle in with some of that sunscreen. Okay, so now you can see our transparency. It has those 4 different sunscreens so we can test them. And we're going to use this UV sensitive paper where you can actually take it out in the sun and it will change colors from UV exposure from the sun. Or in our case, we're going to use a UV light box with an artificial UV source. So there's kind of a bluish tint to that sun paper, it's called, or the UV sensitive paper. We're going to put our transparency on top of that paper. And here is what one of the UV light boxes looks like, so you can see that. We're going to need to lift this protective flap up, put the UV sensitive paper with the transparency and sunscreen on top of it, put that inside of the box. Okay, you can see that here. We'll close the flap to block any of the UV light from getting out. And then we're going to need to turn on the UV light, set our timer. Okay, we'll do a little time lapse. So here you can just see what the box would look like inside. When the timer is up, we turn off the light. Okay, we would want to not reach in while the light's on because we don't want to expose ourselves to that fake UV light. We're going to remove the transparency and the UV sensitive paper. And we can discard the transparency with the sunscreen on it because we won't need that anymore. All we're going to need is the UV sensitive paper. Now what we're going to need to do is rinse that under water. We'll set a timer for that as well, like it tells you in your procedure. So we'll rinse that off. You can see it's changing color. It's changing, you're going to see blue, darker blue or white on it when it's finished. And here we can see when it's finished. So the paper is white where we have so if it's pure white, there is no UV light that got to the UV paper, meaning that sunscreen blocked more UV rays than others. Okay, so you're going to use this result that we have here along with the image of this that you have in your lab notebook to complete the lab.